Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into an absolute powder keg of a controversy from the 2026 World Cup. We're talking about a moment that had fans literally screaming at their screens and left football analysts completely split down the middle. I am talking, of course, about the Foxborough fallout. To really grasp the stakes here, you've got to look at this number, 12. It had been 12 painfully long years since Germany actually won a knockout match at a World Cup. I mean, since hoisting that trophy back in 2014, they suffered those two brutal group stage exits in 2018 and 2022. So walking into Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts, the pressure on Julian Nagelsmann's squad was just massive. You could practically cut the tension with a knife. So, was one of football's absolute giants robbed on the world stage? Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine the jarring total shock of a winning goal in extra time getting completely wiped away by a pitchside monitor. How on earth does a four-time World Cup champion get sent packing by a massive underdog in a moment of sheer chaos? Well, let's figure it out. Part 1, the Foxborough fallout, setting the scene in Massachusetts. Look, this was no walk in the park for the Germans. Paraguay came in as huge underdogs, right? But they parked the bus in this incredibly rigid, organized 4-4-2 defensive block. Totally against the run of play, in the 42nd minute, Julio Enciso scores this stunning header to put Paraguay up 1-0. Kai Havertz does manage to equalize in the second half, but man, despite Germany absolutely dominating possession, they just could not break through Paraguayan keeper Jalal Jayed. He was having the game of his life. And so we head into extra time. Part 2, anatomy of the disallowed goal, the 105th minute. All right, picture this. Germany wins a corner. The ball gets whipped in, and it is just absolute chaos in there. We're talking 13 bodies crammed into the 6-yard box in a fiercely physical battle. Rising up above the whole crowd at the back post is German defender Jonathan Tah, and he powerfully heads the ball right into the net. 2-1 Germany. The stadium erupts. Nagelsmann is absolutely losing his mind on the touchline. They genuinely think they've won the game. Tash scores. The wild celebrations are happening. But the flag stays down, and then suddenly everything just stops. The VAR booth buzzes down, the referee gets called over to the pitch side monitor, he watches the replay, turns back to the pitch, and wipes the goal away. Just like that, Germany's 2-1 lead completely evaporates. The emotional drop in that stadium was honestly staggering. So what did the referee actually see? Well, the alleged foul comes down to this tiny interaction between German defender Waldemar Anton and Paraguayan keeper Orlando Gil. And yeah, sure, there's contact, but replays, both in real time and slow-mo, show it was really just a brush, a minimal graze. Gil was already moving toward the ball, and the second he feels that touch, he drops to the ground. To a lot of people watching, it really looked like a dive. Now, the man in the middle of this absolute maelstrom, Jalal Jayed, a 39-year-old Moroccan official who was actually making history as the first CAF referee to officiate a knockout stage match at the 2026 World Cup. He was having a fantastic tournament up to this point, but you've got to understand, the suffocating pressure of a knockout match involving a global giant like Germany brings a totally different level of scrutiny. Part 3, the expert consensus the football world reacts. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we're hearing from a guy who knows exactly how much contact a keeper takes in the box. Former top-level U.S. international goalkeeper Brad Friedel said point-blank on the world feed that there was zero justification for Gil to go down there. I mean, when a pro goalkeeper is calling out another goalkeeper for going down too easily, you know for sure it's a remarkably soft call. And man, the frustration just snowballed from there. You've got legendary striker Alan Shearer commentating live on the BBC, and he is just in total disbelief. He explicitly pointed out, hey, it's a contact sport, there are 13 bodies in the box, and the keeper simply bought the foul. His total condemnation of the call really echoed exactly what millions of fans were screaming at their TVs. It wasn't just ex-players either. Take Darren Cann, a former World Cup final assistant referee. He immediately acknowledged how incredibly soft the contact was. Even though he suspected a technicality might rule it out anyway, having a top-tier official confirm the extreme softness of the call just threw more fuel on the fire. Part 4, the VAR debate, rulebook versus the spirit of the game. And this brilliantly illustrates the real crux of the VAR debate. On one hand, you've got the strict letter of the law. Technically speaking, if you impede a keeper's ability to challenge for the ball while it's in flight, it's an infraction. The ref didn't just invent a rule. But on the flip side, you have the whole intended purpose of VAR, fixing a clear and obvious error. Critics argue the contact was so remarkably minimal that letting the goal stand in real time wasn't a clear and obvious mistake at all, meaning VAR really shouldn't have gotten involved in the first place. The fallout from actual refereeing circles was just brutal. The Law 5 referee analysis blog, which is like the hub for officiating experts, had contributors calling this one of the absolute worst VAR interventions of the entire tournament. Look at this quote. They were so baffled by the call, they suggested anyone seeing a foul there should literally switch to another sport. They called the intervention fundamentally inexcusable. But hey, let's take a breath and make sure we're looking at the whole picture here. First off, we have to remember Germany actually benefited from a really controversial VAR call earlier in the tournament, where a penalty against Ecuador was reversed for them. Secondly, under modern rules, goalkeepers get an extreme level of protection in the penalty area. That's just a fact. And lastly, while angry fans are super quick to throw around the word fixed, that is an incredibly heavy claim.
Human error or just a hyper-strict interpretation of a soft rule under mind-blowing pressure is way, way more likely here.
Part 5, the final verdict, the nuanced pivot. So the crucial point is this. As totally gutting as that one call was, Germany still had their chances. They had 120 minutes of heavy possession, but they failed to score a second legitimate goal from open play against Paraguay's defense. And when it finally went to a penalty shootout, Germany missed 3 critical penalties. Kai Havertz, Nick Woltemade, and ironically, Jonathan Tah all missed the mark. You simply can't put 3 missed penalties entirely on the referee. And that brings us to the final historic scoreline in the shootout. Paraguay 4, Germany 3. That was the first time Germany had ever lost a World Cup penalty shootout, ever. And we've got to give credit where it's due here. Paraguay's resilience was absolutely real. Orlando Gill made some phenomenal saves during that shootout, and Jose Canelli buried the winning strike to make himself an absolute legend in Paraguayan history. Look, there is no denying that ruling out that 105th minute goal was harsh. The vast majority of experts agree the ref got it wrong. But Paraguay defended for their absolute lives, their keeper was heroic, and Germany faltered when it mattered most at the penalty spot. So I'll do it to you to decide. Was Germany genuinely robbed by a strict, soft application of VAR? Or did an underdog Paraguay fight tooth and nail to truly earn their historic victory? It is a debate that is going to rage on for years. Thanks for learning with me today on The Explainer.